Ann Elder, what is your favorite way of terminating an affair?
Let's see. I would have to say, my favorite way of terminating an affair is to fire my boyfriend.
Do you think that Ann Elder's answer was honest, or do you think she was copping out and not telling the truth? We'll find out. And here are some of Hollywood's most exciting stars who will be helping you make up your mind. The handsome James Farentino. The versatile Michelle Lee. The always dashing Bill Bixby. The vivacious Lois Nettleton. The zany Larry Hovis. The exciting Della Reese. And the witty Richard Dawson. And now, here's your host, the star of Cop Out, Geoff Edwards.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to Cop Out. You've met today's celebrity guests, and we're going to find out whether our celebrities think Ann Elder was being honest or copping out right after this short message. Okay, welcome back to our show, and now let's meet our two cop-out contestants for today. An auto racing enthusiast who works in the pits while her husband races, Cheryl Power. Cheryl, congratulations. And the creator and owner of one of Southern California's most popular restaurants, Frank Sirocco. Frank, nice to have you on. Okay, Cheryl and Frank, here we go. Now, keep in mind that each question is worth $100. The total is going to swing back and forth between you. And also keep in mind that our celebrities are hearing the questions for the first time. Frank, you heard the answer that Ann Elder gave to the question, what is your favorite way of terminating an affair? She said that she would fire her boyfriend. So, Ann Elder, would you lock in, please, whether you are copping out or being honest? Ann has locked in her answer, and Frank, to help you make up your mind, let's get some opinions from our other celebrities. Michelle Lee.
Yes, I think Ann was being honest because she used the phrase fire. It comes to my mind that perhaps she has been going or went with an agent. And I think she probably just fired him, and that was the end of their relationship. I think she was telling me.
Michelle Lee says she's being honest. Bill Bixby, you had your hand up.
I think she's copping out because, of course, to fire a boyfriend is to say that you hired him in the first place, and I have never seen a marketplace for them in that way.
Come to my house, darling. I'm accepting applications.
I think probably that most people desire to end an affair by starting another one.
So Bill Bixby says cop out. Larry Hovis.
Well, Chris, I know Ann pretty well. We work together a lot, and I've never known her to end an affair. She just kind of dovetails.
So you would say cop out?
I would say that Ann, in all likelihood, is copping out.
Larry Hovis says cop out. Okay, Frank, it's time for you to make up your mind now. We have two cop-outs and one honest from our panel. Time for you to make up your mind for $100. Do you think Ann Elder was being honest, or was she copping out?
Well, it's my feeling that Ann's stock and trade is the one-liner, and therefore she's probably telling the truth.
You think that she's being honest. Ann Elder, were you being honest, or were you copping out?
I was copping out.
Oh. She was copping out, so Cheryl, you get the $100. Okay, Cheryl, it's your turn. And listen as we ask James Farentino this question. James Farentino, what immature quality have you been trying to rid yourself of for years?
Bedwetting.
Okay,
Since you don't really buy that, do you?
I buy whatever you tell me, Jim.
No, seriously. I have a childish temperament. I scream a lot. And I find that to be very immature quality about myself.
All right, James.
You get me, Geoff?
I get you, yes. I get you. James Farentino says the immature quality he's been trying to rid himself of, Cheryl, is that he has a temper. Would you lock in, please, Jim, whether you're being honest or copping out? And, Cheryl, listen now as some of our celebrities help you with your opinion here. Go ahead, Richard Dawson.
I've known James quite a long time, and his first answer happened to be correct. If you look in the Guinness Book of Records, he has the first waterbed on record. I've also known him, and I must say, I think that he's being honest. He does have a tantrum every now and again.
Richard Dawson says he's being honest. Della Reese.
I think he's being honest, too. He impresses me as a man that when he doesn't really get all of his way, he's very disturbed, and he probably would holler and scream, and I think he knows that he does that, and he's working on it. I think he's honest about it.
Della Reese says he's being honest. Bill Bixby.
No, I think he's copping out. I've watched too many of Jim's performances, and he always has immeasurable control, especially under the most trying
Not in
times.
bed, he doesn't, Bill.
Bill Bixby said he's copping out, and Cheryl, it's your turn now. We have 2 honest and 1 cop-out from our panel. Of course, you have to make up your own mind for $200. What do you think? Was James Farentino being honest, or was he copping out?
Oh, he just couldn't have a temper.
Well, that means he wets the bed.
I think he was copping out.
You think he was copping out. James Farentino, were you being honest, or were you copping out?
I was being honest.
Yes, but you were. He was yelling at me. Let it stop for a minute.
Okay, Michelle Lee.
What?
Frank, listen, as we ask Michelle Lee this question. Michelle, what do you find yourself doing all the time to feed your ego?
Changing sheets. Sorry, go ahead.
What do I do all the time to feed my ego?
He asked you first.
Well, what I generally do is butt into my husband's business. I usually read his scripts, tell him what I think of them, tell him what he should tell his producers and directors. And it makes me feel important that I can help him in that way.
Okay, lock in, please, and the buttons on the arm of your chair, whether you're being honest or copping out. And Frank, Michelle says that what she does to feed her ego is to interfere in her husband's business. It makes her feel good and important. And to help you make up your mind whether she's being honest or copping out, we'll go to our celebrity panel. Lois Nettleton, your hand went up right away.
She just looked absolutely dishonest every minute of that whole thing, so I say... Just Michelle. I say she's copping out.
Lois Nettleton says she's copping out. Larry Hovis.
Well, I don't know. I kind of feel she's telling the truth. I think that she does probably kind of get into Jim's affairs and business. I know every time we've done anything together, she's always been along. At every show, everything. Mm-hmm. You can't go anywhere without her.
Larry Hovis says she's being honest. Della Reese.
I think she's copping out because we've just established about his temper, and I don't think she'd go in and bug him with things like that.
Okay, Della Reese says that she's copping out. So we have 2 cop-outs and 1 honest, Frank. And now for $300, what do you think? Was she copping out or was she being honest?
Well, I don't think a lady who marries an Italian needs any more ego food, so she's got to be copping out.
From one Italian to another. Let's find out. Michelle Lee, were you being honest or were you copping out?
I was being honest.
She was being honest. Too bad, Frank. And now, Cheryl, you have $300. And Bill Bixby, we want to know how you reinforce your masculinity. And we're going to find out in just a couple of minutes, right after this message. Welcome back to Cop Out. Cheryl, you have $300 at this point. Here's a chance to add another $100 to it as we ask Bill Bixby this question. Bill Bixby, how do you reinforce your masculinity?
Huge doses of vitamin E. As a matter of fact, I was a bachelor for quite a while before I got married for a long time, and ladies are very good for my ego, so I'm still a huge flirt.
Mm-hmm. All right, lock in, please, whether you're being honest or copping out. Bill Bixby says he reinforces his masculinity, Cheryl, by being a flirt. Now, our panelists will help you make up your mind whether he's being honest or copping out. Larry Hovis.
I think he's being honest. I got to tell you, we share a dressing room.
That must reinforce your masculinity.
No, it's just business as usual.
Okay. Larry Hovis says one honest. Richard Dawson?
They did make a very pretty couple in the dressing room, but...
Thank you, Rick.
I happen to know
He's
that
usually so jealous.
Bill is being honest. He also reinforces his masculinity by putting a little piece of cardboard up in his shirt. But that's just a little laundry gag and nothing to get excited about. I believe he's being honest.
Right. And Elder?
Oh, I think he's definitely being honest because I saw Mrs. Bixby right there next to him. She hasn't left his side today, so I know he's telling the truth.
And Elder says he's being honest.
He was flirting with her, I have to be honest.
Okay, Cheryl, we have three honest. So we asked three celebrities. All of them said honest. You have your choice now, whether you want to go along with the group or you want to go the other way. You make up your own mind for a possible $400. Was Bill Bixby being honest or was he copping out?
I think most men do that same thing, flirt, to reinforce, and I think he's telling the truth.
You're going to go along with the group and you're going to say he's being honest. Bill Bixby, were you being honest or were you copping out?
I was copping out.
He was copping out. Too bad, Cheryl and Frank. You get the $400.
Out in the dressing room, too.
All right, Frank, we're going to move to Lois Nettleton. Lois, this is your question, Lois Nettleton. What was the most surprising thing that you ever learned about the opposite sex?
Sorry, Lois.
This is on the air now, right?
So far, Lois.
Well, besides that,
Just let it all hang out.
Something surprising.
Well, let's rephrase the question. Do you know anything about the opposite sex?
Okay.
I sometimes wonder.
Okay, Lois, the most
Okay.
surprising thing.
I think the most surprising thing about the opposite sex that I've learned is how much they are like the female sex.
In what way is that, Lois?
Oh, every way.
In every way. All right, would you please lock in whether you're being honest or copping out? Lois Nettleton says the most surprising thing, Frank, she ever learned about the opposite sex is that they're like the female sex in every way. Well, we'll just...
Did I say that?
Just lock in her answer. We'll just move right along to the panel to help you make up your mind. I almost hate to do this. Richard Dawson?
I believe Lois was copping out, although we do have the same dressmaker. She's a very pretty lady, and she knows much, much more than she's told us. I think she was copping out.
Richard Dawson says she was copping out. Yeah, Della
I don't know
Reese.
if I think she was copping out or I hope she was copping out. But I don't think that was the most surprising thing. I think the thing was so surprising she didn't want to tell what it was.
Okay, Della Reese says she's copping
Can I
out.
take back my answer?
James Farentino? That's what you had.
I think she was being honest. I think what she was trying to say, if I may, is that the opposite sex has to have a certain amount of femininity in them in order to be able to understand the opposite sex. So I think she's being honest.
All right, James Farentino says honest. And Frank, you've heard our panel. We have two cop-outs and one honest. Time for you to make up your own mind. Now you have a chance for $500. And what do you think? Was Lois Nettleton being honest or was she copping out?
Well, I think she was being truthful, but I still think she was copping out because she skipped something first and then gave the right answer at the end. But she was copping out.
You say she was copping out, and we'll find out. Lois Nettleton, were you being honest or were you copping out?
I was being honest.
She says she was being honest. That's too bad,
I'm
Frank,
so
but the
confused.
$500
No, I'm not
goes
sure.
to Carol.
We have something to show you.
Surprise.
Okay, Carol.
Nice for you.
Larry Hovis,
Yes.
it's your turn now. Your question is this. What is your most primitive desire?
Back to Lois again.
My most primitive desire, in terms of just a gut instinct, is that what you mean?
Whichever way you want to put it, Larry.
Is to be an absolutely incredibly unstoppable pro halfback.
Larry Hovis'
That's
most
it.
primitive desire is to be an unstoppable
I don't live
pro
a real
halfback.
exciting life.
Lock in, please, whether you're being honest or whether you're copping out. As Larry locks in, listen, Cheryl, as we ask the panel to give you a hand here. Richard Dawson?
I worked with him on Hogan's for 6 years. I know he's being dishonest. His secret primitive desire is to break down a motel door and catch Dumbo and Bambi in a provocative position.
That's a cop-out. Okay, Cheryl, there's one helpful hint for you. It's time for you to make up your own mind. You have $500. You can add to it and make it $600. What do you think? Was he being honest or was he copping out?
He just looked like he was copping out.
Just from his looks, you think he was copping out? Well, we'll find out. Larry Hovis, were you being honest or were you copping out?
I was being honest.
He was being honest. You lose the $500. $600 now for Frank. And Della Reese, we want you to sing a song describing your biggest hang-up. But first, here's Johnny Jacobs to tell our special contestants about some special gifts that we have for them. Welcome back to Cop Out. Frank, you have the $600 now, and it's your turn, so let's see how Della Reese handles this question. Della, sit up straight, clear your throat. And now, sing a song, Della, describing your biggest hang-up.
I'm as restless as a willow in a windstorm. I'm as jumpy as a puppet on a string.
All right, yeah. Della Reese, lock in now, please, whether you're being honest or copping out. And Frank, you heard Della's answer. Her biggest hang-up is that she's restless. Now, with that in mind, let's go to our panelists. They'll give you some help. Michelle Lee.
I believe that she was being honest mainly because it probably popped into her mind right away. She didn't have much time to think of a song, and that's why I think she was being honest.
Michelle Lee says she's being honest. Bill Bixby.
Yeah, I think she was being honest, too, because Della works from such boundless energy, and she likes to perform, and I think that idleness would probably be a very big hang-up for her.
Bill Bixby says she's being honest. Larry Hovis.
Yeah, I would say honest, absolutely, because of the choice of that song, the Rodgers and Hammerstein tune from State Fair. It just, you don't hear that song anymore.
Uh-huh.
And for that to come up, that's got to be a song that's in your lifestyle.
Larry Hovis says honest. One more, Lois Nettleton.
Yes, one more. It's almost like what Bill said, but because she has such seeming calm on the surface, you just know that there's all that hanging around inside.
Lois Nettleton says honest. All right, we have 4 honest, Frank. And it's time for you to make up your mind. You have $600. You can make it $700. You going to go along with the crowd, or are you going to go off by yourself? What do you think? Was she being honest, or was she copping out?
Well, since all men lead lives of quiet desperation, she was telling the truth.
You think she was being honest, and we'll find out. Della Reese, were you being honest, or were you copping out?
I was copping out.
She was... I'm sorry. $700 is over to you, Cheryl. Okay, contestants Cheryl and Frank.
This is always the night they burnt old Dixie down.
All right, Cheryl and Frank, this is very important. Celebrities, this is the last and final question. Cheryl, you have the $700. It's your turn. If you get the answer right, you'll have $800 to take home. If you miss it, the $700 plus another $100 goes to Frank, and Frank, you'll take the $800 home. So let's go from there as we ask Richard Dawson, Cheryl. Richard Dawson, what is your favorite substitute for romance?
That's it.
Sex. Favorite substitute for romance. I think I would have to say being with children. No, not... I don't mean I'm...
No, I'm not laughing at anything.
I did see Geoff behind a billboard once going... and I don't mean that at all. Spending time with children...
Okay.
What I
Richard
mean.
Dawson says his favorite substitute for romance is to be with children. Lock in whether you're being honest or copping out, please, Richard. And Cheryl will have some panelists help you out. Now, Larry Hovis.
Well, I happen to know that the real answer to that is silly putty.
Larry Hovis gives you a cop.
But I think he was telling the truth.
Oh, you think he was?
Yes, I do. He was telling the truth.
All right, Larry Hovis says honest.
He loves kids.
Well, I know how strongly he feels about his children. It's one of his passions, and I would imagine being a passion, it would take the place, possibly.
Very nicely
That's why
done.
he's telling the truth.
Bill Bixby gives an honest. And Elder, you had your hand up?
Yes, I think he was being totally honest. I saw Dickie the other day with a smashing-looking child. She was about 25.
A great
she
dancer, I
was
might
built like there was no tomorrow, so I'd have to say he's being totally honest.
And Elder says an honest. And Michelle Lee, your hand was up.
Well, I was going to say honest also, mainly because his answer wasn't funny. And he just said it straight on, and that's not like Dickie. I'm sorry. I think he was being totally honest.
Okay, Michelle Lee says honest. And Cheryl, that's 3 honest. You've heard what our celebrity said about the answer Richard Dawson gave us. Was he being honest, or was he copping out? And you think about that for a while. You too, Cheryl, and we'll all be back to find out the real answer and who today's winner's going to be right after this brief message. Okay, welcome back. And Cheryl, it's up to you now. Richard Dawson's question was, what is your favorite substitute for romance? He said he'd like to spend time with children. And now it's time for you to make up your mind. Remember, you have $700. If you get it right, it's $800, and you'll be our champion. If you miss it, the $800 goes over to Frank. So, what do you think? Was he being honest, or was he copping out?
Please be honest. I'm saying you were being honest.
Cheryl's going to go along with the celebrity panel. She says that he was being honest. Don't go from the look. Go from what he says as we find out right now. Richard Dawson, were you being honest, or were you copping out?
I was being honest.
He was being honest. Congratulations. Hey, Frank, thanks a lot, man. It's such a good day. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you, celebrities. It's been a ball working with you. I'll tell you, you've all been great. Until next time, this is Geoff Edwards saying so long. Be sure to be with us next week right here on Cop Out. Bye.
All answers on Cop Out are spontaneous and unrehearsed. Cop Out is a Chuck Ferris production.